Hello. Okay, so I've always been quite deeply interested in philosophy, even if I don't come off as very academically sound or normal even. Maybe I'd say that's a strength also in developing and doing philosophy. But yeah, just as a disclaimer, I'm not an academic philosopher. But having the love for philosophy, love for the love of knowledge, of wisdom, is in itself more a valid grounding for the activity of philosophy, I'd say. The creation of thought and creating structures to do that in new ways, in more structured ways, in more deep ways, in more complete networks of thought. Anyway, I was watching this video about Joey TheAnimeMan talking about, I read philosophy, which was funny in part, because props to anyone who gets a new hobby or reads anything, but it's a bit on the surface that if you've read a book in philosophy or especially one like Marcus Aurelius's meditations, which is very self-helpy. People should be able to understand how it is self-helpy, and probably people have run into critique of self-help by now. If not, that's a shame. Anyway, it is a bit self-helpy even in the original, so that's probably why it was so heavily recommended, with the modern Stoicism take on the internet being that, you should be a Stoicism pro, even if that is even less in-depth than what is Aurelius' writing, which I'd say I'm not a fan of. Even so, it's cool that Joey read philosophy, whatever, but it did get presented as a huge deal, kind of, which is, I guess, okay for content, but I did immediately go into the comment section to find out whether I can find something spicy to reply to. So, one thing I found was a very, very overstated, very unoriginal take of one must imagine Sisyphus as happy, as the Albert Camus quote being misinterpreted again as a modern reinterpretation due to the monotonous, increasingly dense and never-ending work cycle. This is fully wrong. This is wrong in such a fundamental way. So my first comment to be that now it is blah blah blah, divine punishment. This is no, I don't agree with this at all. So my first comment is that's a surface level interpretation. The other less apparent reading is that even in spite the everyday slog and existential anguish that's been present always for everyone, that's the human condition, as by philosophy, at least from modernity. There's a connotation to that even in the ancients, but anyway, also adding this parenthesis: why do people think it's a modern thing? Really, why? One can embrace this repetition and dreariness and actually truly be happy, though it sounds contradictory. So this is something I'm not fully sure of, because I've not read enough of the source material, but I've seen a bunch of interpretations on good academic philosophers' channels, like Sugru and Julian de Medeiros, this guy. And given my interpretation is also faulty and isn't complete at all. I think this is what, like, for example, the Medeiros hints towards that the more meaty interpretation of Camus, and probably the more like accurate one, is that existential dread, being without actual like grounded objective meaning, is a human condition in the way that it's not tied to modernity at all. Also, that's so like disgustingly funny that this person brought it up, because do they even imagine what happened in like Middle Ages? Like, do they even imagine? Can they, like, is it one of these people who think that in Middle Ages valor and belief in God was so like deep rooted? No, like the human condition was still the same. Existence was as meaningless. The cope people had in believing in God, which like apparently actually was very cynical for most, at least learned people. And people in power, they weren't very sure of any such belief. That was even more of a hindrance, actually. In reality, like witches weren't burned. It was like an excuse to actually make life even more miserable. So this apparent like faith, religious meaning was even like made everything worse. So nowadays, when you actually get the choice, get the understanding of there being no such like grounded religion, and feel the existential dread from there, that's a more authentic and liberated kind of existence even. Plus, just objectively speaking, conditions were so much worse in the Middle Ages. Like, come on, like, is it really a more Sisyphean task to like make paperwork at a like startup than it was to like everyday toil on like a landlord's land? Yeah, there's like maybe something akin to bullshit jobs nowadays and wage slavery, but like it is much more easy, much more possible to buy yourself out of wage slavery than it was out of true slavery back then, and both of these options were worse than. Like the cope was much more massive, and the like actual anguish was much more like objective, rooted in nature back then than it is now. Now you can get away with just the spiritual existential dread. You need to. There's a sort of authenticity and happiness to actually get there, to be able to doubt value itself. This presupposes that you don't constantly need to think about food. Like if you want that, if you think that's a better existence, and that gets you out of the Sisyphean like torment, then just like get rid of all your money. Go. There are countries that you can like be a slave at. Like I'm pretty sure you won't go there. So basically, yeah, there's a couple of like difficult to understand comments, but then there's this one. I think that's a good point. While life has always consisted of certain rhythms, beats, and repetitions, the extreme monotony of certain types of labor, including the almost maddeningly meaningless jobs found in modernity, is a different beast. Again, you're much overestimating modernity's vices, modernity, like the pain of modernity. And also, you do know that modernity is not contemporary. We live in post-modernity right now, or even like something after that. Yeah, like strictly speaking. Anyway, it's probably easier to assign meaning to temporary hardships that you can attach post hoc narratives to. Like, how is that? Like, how can you more easily attach post hoc narratives to like farming at the landlord's land or like toiling at a industrial complex, or finding it difficult to find any like direction as like a millionaire or something. How is that like different from the spiritual like pains of today? Like you can just as easily think that there's a God behind your company, or like your president, or your everyday job, as you could in the Middle Ages. It's exactly the same. The only thing is that like you are like not socially restricted to claiming you believe that. You're usually, it might begin to change with. It has changed for multiple countries like Russia. They need like absolute obedience, but yeah, it's much better nowadays. Sorry, and blah blah blah. This is basically misunderstanding the point. If lying to ourselves was actually a realistic solution, the amount of people that are utterly miserable in the modern hamster wheel would actually be a trivial moral issue. Let's say first, like this is not a moral issue per se. At least we haven't talked about it like that here. And no one said tell them to be happy and they should be happy. No, it was like actually being okay, or like accepting the meaninglessness of life that was proposed, as opposed to dying, as Camus would have maybe put it. So my response, a bit like, I just very quickly wrote this up, isn't the best maybe, but I think you misunderstood the point. Sartre and Camus were writing at a time where God is dead, and existentialism, and also the impossibility to come verily to truth, so no common grounded truth, were in reality not tied to modern BS jobs, but were rather reflections on the human conditions. So I point out two things. Like the Camus like quote that they quoted was like misquoted. It wasn't properly, like, didn't address the context. Camus didn't have these BS jobs that this guy was referring to. Like Camus wasn't referring to that. So yeah. So first, like historically, it's wrongly interpreted, and then secondly, the statements like adhering to the human condition, etc., isn't as problematic as if you make the Sisyphus happy sentence only apply to nowadays modernity. Even if you say that it doesn't matter what Camus themselves said, that like nowadays we can reinterpret that as like only applying to modern BS jobs, then like why? like as I stated before, like this is not something that's exclusive to our age. Like, are people poorly read in history, or do they have like is it maybe a liberating illusion to think there was a time that we can turn back to that was like free of anguish we have right now, even if it is like a human condition? Anyway, name me any age where our jobs and activities were magically packing an universal meaning. That's where the weight lies. Replacing labor for capitalists in the 18th century for corporations in ours, or comparing to toiling for landlords in the 12th century, etc., aren't that different in an essence. 12th century is a bit too much, though. At that time, it doesn't matter really. Serfdom was a thing for a long while, and abolishing serfdom in like 19-something or 18-something, it wasn't, how to say, it wasn't so that like within one day oppression became obsolete. No. People are still oppressed, obviously, but claiming that they're more oppressed somehow by the BS jobs nowadays, or like uniquely, than they were back then, that's going by the point that was made by Camus in the early 20th century. That's just like arrogance, a misinformed thinking they can present statements without context kind of arrogance. Again, it's not bad that people are like putting their opinions on social media, but it is a bit weird how definite people think their opinions are without much to back it up. Like even if you have loads to back it up, even if you like study a field for like 20 years, you shouldn't put forth such definite claims. I'm hoping that I can present my point as a bit more studied and also at the same time not too definite. I'm trying to present it as a interpretation, but like to me it doesn't make sense how this interpretation can be weaker than the other one. It makes obviously a certain sense because people obviously talk more about what they know, and they know about what, like, it's quote unquote modernity. Again, modernity by this writer meant like nowadays strictly it's not modernity, but yeah. So it makes sense they're talking about that, but the implications there in those statements were that like previously in the past it was much easier to find meaning or something, and that's simply not the case. Like I can't find any logic to that. This is like from a human logic standpoint. This is obviously from a rock standpoint. Both of our opinions are the same, but I'm not looking into things from a rock standpoint. And I think whoever thinks they are lying to everyone. You can just as easily attach post hoc narratives to nowadays toils and miseries. The pain point is that society as a whole has more or less accepted there is no ultimate grounding, and for some reason exploring human culture or art as a narrative has been lowered by perhaps corporate capitalist ideology. So by lowered I mean made inferior or like unpopularized. So like for example in and after times of Nietzsche, when he came out with the philosophy that has the quotes "God is dead," etc. God is dead. Even he and like Kierkegaard and others posited the main alternative to belief in like a higher being as art or like a human-made value. And nowadays, to have that human-made value put under like strictly capitalists' ownership has made it degenerate. So simply the belief of people. It's always about belief, but it's just like nowadays people wouldn't present the problem, the dichotomy in art versus God, because art has been lowered to such unpopularity. For shame. But I think there's good reasons, societal reasons why that has happened. So not having that alternative as a popular choice, as a popular thing to have taught your children to adhere to, like artistic principles, originality, new value, new achievement, new communication, new ideas, uh, to have that being brought down to like product, and it only has value if it makes money. This has this is perhaps the point that has some more sway to me in saying that like nowadays contemporary reality is a bit different than previously. But yeah, it's not about having less or having more like bullshit jobs or whatever. It's not about having like less freedom or whatever, or like less meaning. It's about people forgetting philosophy in general and not looking into these ways to value life aside faith in God. And even if people are artists, they often struggle with actually presenting their activities as valuable. Which was also the case in the past, but I think the story, the narrative behind the troubled artist who is somewhat above the everyday life, that has sadly died down a bit, even though it is I think a valuable ideal. Like the only problem is the leap of faith, the absolute dedication that such art needs, and the sacrifices. There are many more failed artists probably who were absolutely stunning and devoted and did not get famous, as like Van Gogh did, Van Gogh, with perhaps similar circumstances in poverty and somewhat and very bad mental health. Anyway, I'm referencing Medeiros and Sugru as good YouTube recommendations because there's not much good YouTube on philosophy. Sadly, it's like mostly product. But these people seem to have passion. Sugru sadly passed away a couple of years ago. Okay, here I clarify that it's not only about also the peasantry or the BS jobs people who, like Sisyphus's fable, is meant to incorporate, the Camus one. It's meant to be human beings in general, so also the rich people, and that also follows the data that very wealthy, very successful people suffer vastly from depression, etc. They have the same exact problem as any human with finding meaning. And also my little jab at Stoicism, because the self-help part is kind of apparent when people are looking for that in philosophy. It's a bit ill-aligned with actual philosophical, like the bulk, the like major soul of the philosophical pursuit, which is not ways to make you feel better, which should be grasping our situation or the truth as well as possible, even if it's not like absolute or grounded. The seeking part itself is valuable, and the seeking and the seeking and the seeking in depth. Like at some point, Marcus Aurelius and similar philosophy quotes, quote unquote, does kind of lazily, to my opinion, put a stop on the seeking, saying that yeah, I have a solution. But the interesting part is that no one has a solution to meaning. Any ultimate solution. There's none. So presenting any, including Marcus Aurelius, as the great emperors, like for any reason, especially like reasons like, oh, they were like the greatest emperor, of course they're right. No, that's the most surface level BS kind of reasoning you can give. And I also think I made that point somewhere here.
So who wants to go?
Yeah, just to recap this funny little tangent into philosophy, which is cool in itself again, but a bit like overstated in that I think I think it's a bit sad that like people like this, who are well-learned people, don't know anything about philosophy. They haven't read a single passage of Plato. They've maybe heard of the trolley problem, which like without context is like kind of memey. So that's just a bit sad. And having them just point out like, oh, I read a book by Marcus Aurelius, now I'm learned and smart. Somehow, how to say it, somehow that's saddening. The saddening part is they'll probably not pick up like Plato or anyone else. They'll leave it there. If they will pick up Plato and talk about these topics more than just the one little jab at like Marcus Aurelius, then that's cool. But I'm doubtful that they're actually interested in philosophy, and they might be more interested in like something that helps them in their everyday life, which is ultimately themselves, and not like an ancient emperor who knew better. They didn't.
This, like, you know, meditations towards the way that he lived his life and the way that he wanted to live his life and the way that he viewed life and stuff like that. And it's
He. Like, why do we like need to look at that like as any basis of picking this book? Like, yeah, he was like an emperor and he had some thoughts, but does being successful give you like a better philosophy? No, it doesn't. Philosophy isn't about success, it's about inquiry.
this philosophy called Stoicism, which is where the word Stoic comes from.
Yeah.
Which is all about this idea of not letting certain things control your life that are outside of your control, and kind of being the driver.
Look at Connor, he's like, yes, this is totally, like, if even these sentences are like too much for people, it's like
in the driver's seat of your life. And this was this book that he wrote, or list of journal entries that he wrote, which again were never meant for publication, but some 2,000 years later, it is now considered one of the greatest philosophy books ever written. And
no, it's not. It's considered by like the internet, like who are like uneducated people usually. Not that it's bad, but who is it considered by? If you look at philosophy faculties, you'll not find Marcus Aurelius' Meditations as the best book of all time. No.
like, you know, sometimes you'll read something and every single thing you read is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That was this book. Like, literally
No, that's cool. if he got something out of it, it's cool.
Single entry in this book, I had to reread several times because it's not only written in a very poetic way that can be open to interpretation, but also just
It's so weirdly like unbeautiful. It's sort of poetic, but it's like kind of it's a very rambly kind of style Aurelius has. I kind of hate it, but okay.
I've never seen a person who can give this much of like a poignant statement on life and the way that you should be living life. And like I'd always
Okay, but like, is this poignancy, this like surprise you get, is this the value of philosophy? Like, somewhat, but I think it gets less poignant the more you read.
heard of the term like stoic and stoicism and stuff like that, but I never had like a full grasp of what it actually meant. I thought, you know, when I hear when someone says, "Oh, he's very stoic," like what do you imagine when someone says, "Oh, he's a very stoic person"?
One who doesn't confide in people easily.
Yeah.
Able to
Someone who keeps to themselves.
Yeah. So it's a lot of that, but also a big like misconception that a lot of people get when they hear.
It's not a misconception. There's two different ways the words are used. Colloquially, it does mean a person who is in tied to their emotion and is like very like kind of a phlegmatic person, maybe.
Stoic is, oh, you shouldn't feel like emotions towards anything because you shouldn't let your emotions like overrun your life. Marcus Aurelius instead kind of said, well, no, you're a human. You're going to feel emotions towards certain things, but what you shouldn't. It's not this idea of you shouldn't feel emotions towards certain things.
How deep is the statement? Like, you're a human, you will feel emotions. Like that doesn't say much anything.
And just get things done. It's this idea of you should feel emotions towards things, but you shouldn't let those feelings and emotions control your life.
So what does control your life mean here? Like, so I get that it's good to make decisions based on more than just feeling, but like it's a bit like saying nothing, saying that, oh yeah, everyone feels emotions, they're super important, but they're not everything. Like, okay, sure, I think everyone gets that like past year 6 of their lives.
And there's like I can just write off or list off just like a bunch of like quotes from this book. And
But not many people put those thoughts into words, probably. So yeah.
like I feel like it's kind of crazy to think that a dude who lived 2,000 years ago and was talking about life 2,000 years ago, which suffice to say none of us can relate to.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People were still biologically the same. Politics was still nasty as is. Like, humans essentially were the same. Like, how do you think like we cannot relate to people 2,000 years ago? It's such a short period of time, biologically speaking.
On a surface level, can write shit that every single person, no matter what walk of life you're in, can relate to in one way or another.
And that's also its weakness, actually. If you write for everyone in like vast generalities, something that everyone can relate to, like without putting in significant like thought or meditations. I use that ironically. Then like, what's the value? Like, hasn't everyone thought of it then? Isn't that like a surface level thing that's like doesn't really give any new value?
Damn, if I had a library, if I had a fucking diary and that would just got like leaked to the entire world, I would hope my writing would be in
Dude, right?
And it's not just like, got pissed at the fucking spoons today. Can't remember what happened that night
I'm
out.
sure that might have been in there, but maybe it was removed. I mean, it's obviously, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
I imagine that this, his words have been almost translated quite a lot throughout
Yes.
the ages. So it's probably, it's
Almost translated. What do you mean? They have been translated, but that doesn't mean it changed. That's a different thing.
probably the rough meaning of what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
A wide variety of changes.
yeah, so there's so he originally wrote this all in Greek, obviously, but it's been translated multiple times over many iterations. I read the one that is like the most highly accepted and praised translation.
They always say that there's one book in philosophy that's most highly accepted. There's one translation that's most highly accepted. They're putting a bit too much weight into the advertisement they've seen. I feel like without actually understanding why something is better in one way than another. Like translations often have pros and cons to them. They're not like this is the best one usually.
I forget the author's name. I apologize, but
Max Relic.
well, yeah, the translator author. I forgot his name. Yeah, but
Give us a quote. Give us
okay,
a quote.
okay, I'll give you a quote. This one is on perspective. He said, "Everything we hear is an opinion."
Connor is not feeling it. Connor is just so miserable with anything that's not like, I don't know, dopaminergically entertaining.
And not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You know, which is like
Pretty. What does it mean, really? Explain then.
perspective, not the perspective. He said, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth."
Like that's such a like middle school level like saying. Like that's like subjectivism to the max. That's such a basic bitch thing to say, and it's like I don't agree with that at all. There are different values in propositions in what people are saying. It's yeah, sure, they can be from a perspective, but if they have any sorts of like meaning that's like translatable across humans, when we presuppose like humans, then they have a sort of validity that's different to one another. So a sentence can have more power than another. Like the very basic bitch kind of like, oh, everything's subjective. That's so prevalent nowadays. Which also isn't to say it doesn't have a point, but its point is misconstrued and overgeneralized. And like statements as this, like everything, nothing, they sound very profound because they seem to be talking about a lot, but like examining it closer, they're not speaking about like anything at all.
Yeah, it's pretty.
You know, which is
Pretty
like,
deep.
yeah,
Why are you saying that?
you know, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. So it's just like it's very.
Like, what does that even mean?
Let that determine what you do and say and think. You know, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think.
Okay, so that's actually quite a good one, I'd say. I feel like this leaning into like existentialism, like obviously much before existentialism, but still like having the the like live in the moment, seize the day kind of carpe diem kind of vibe was culturally significant, and these thoughts I think I value more than the broadism that came out of Marcus Aurelius and the generalizations.
So it's just like it's very simple terminology, but said in a very almost poetic way. And like, and you know, there's quotes like that are very just like to the point.
Why do you need quotes? Philosophy isn't quotes. Philosophy isn't like some sentence like this is contradictory to even what you want to be saying. Like finding value in philosophy in quotes is just like adhering to your emotions, because if you just take value in things that make you feel a way that like, oh, this quote made me feel so like profound or whatever, like that's the opposite of what you were like trying to convey, no?
Yeah, I understand what he's trying to say. Obviously, easier said than done kind of things.
Yeah.
But he also throws in, because, you know, at the time, Greek was this language that was very, like, poetry heavy.
Yeah.
And Marcus Aurelius, you know, would describe things in, like, there's this one chapter where he talked about how...
Is it even written in Greek? Okay, it was, yeah. But yeah, he was the Roman emperor, so Greek wasn't the first language, but yeah.
When someone bakes bread,
Yeah.
and when the bread rises, the cracks at the top of the bread, you know, break the dough.
Analysis metaphors sound so profound, but like if you don't give them like, if they're overused and they don't offer like any more insight than just the 2 seconds you're thinking of it and going like, ooh, then they're kind of bad.
And he kind of alluded that to this whole idea of, well, the cracks are there because the bread rose. So it's like I interpreted that as, you know, when every person rises to their best, sometimes it's not going to be perfect. You know, there are going to be some consequences of some cracks in the road, but at the end of the day, the bread is made.
Yeah.
Jukana mees, mis teed? Ma siin lobisesin pikalt mingist filosoofia teemast. Mõtlesin, et Joey TheAnimeMan on veits, ma ei tea, veits liiga uhkustab selle oma Aureliuse lugemisega, mis on fine, mis on tore, aga see on nagu veits sükene, et ta räägib natukene pealiskaudselt sellest. Igatahes, what's up? Kuidas sul läheb? Jõulud ja värki? Mängid või? Nice. Mis sa mängid? Peaks ka mängima. Ma võtan mingi ühe eriti kuradi vana RPG ette järgmisena. Selle asja, Etrian Odyssey. Lihtsalt tahtsin seda mängida, kuna ma ei tea, ma pole Dungeon Crawlerit mänginud. See on üks paljudest 2000 mängust, mis ma veel oma mängudest mängimata olen jätnud. Miks sa oled roheline? Hea küsimus, sest mul see kaamera hue setting läks selliseks ja siis ma olin nagu, why not? Kui tahad, ma võin tagasi panna. Mul lihtsalt tundus vahelduse mõttes tore. Mingit nagu täpselt põhjust ei ole. Võib-olla veits jõuluvaibid. Ma olen nagu kuusepuu. Green Goblin, täpselt. Ma saan visata mingid neid kuradi pumpkine või mis iganes neid kuradi pommikasi. Green Goblin ja Spider-Man. Spider-Man oli hea koomiks ja multikas. 90. Spider-Man oli eriti intensiivne. Ma võin näidata korra YouTube'i. Võib-olla sa ei ole näinud 90. Spider-Man, aga see oli mega siukene ATH laks. Nagu kogu aeg asjad vahelduvad. Üli naljaks. Autosi? Mis autosi? Autosi? Nagu see on see, kus seal minu põlvkond sai mingi ATH laksu, see on mingi lihtsalt igal hetkel tuleb mingi kuradi välgutooled ja plahvatused ja asjad ja tol ajal seda ei olnud veel ennem seda ja siis see muusika on kind of kick-ass. See on minu lapsepõlv. Veits hullumeelne algus. Nagu laste multika jaoks. Nagu mis siin üldse toimub? Mingi üks kuradi koll, teine koll. Mingi asja sisse kukuvad. What the hell? Kellegi keel tahab välja. Nice. Ühesõnaga. Mis sul autodega on? Ma ei saanud aru. Autosi mängid või? Mängid mingit, ma ei tea, GTA'd või? Hakkab vist varsti seda Etrian Odyssey't mängima. Teine võimalus Far Cry. Far Cry või Etrian Odyssey. Mulle meeldivad need RPG-d, nad on siuksed lahedad. Ma hakkan veel mingi sõpradega, Eesti sõpradega Guild Warsi ka üks hetk mängima. Ma ei tea, kas saad huvitatud. See on tasuta ka muuses. MMO, ehk siis seda on nagu rohkem pikaajalisem mäng. Minu meelest ta ei näe nii hea välja, aga ta on vist sõpradega hea, äkki seltskonna mõttes. Igatahes jah, mul pere läks Lõuna-Eestisse. Mingi teema oli. Põhimõtteliselt läks naine emale külla. Ja kuna mul on siin remont pooleli ja värki, siis ma otsustasin linnas olla. Ja siis ma vedan jõululaupäeva niimoodi, mängides mänge ja jutustades midagi filosoofiast või mida iganes ma siin üritan rääkida. Kui keegi tuleb rääkima eesti keeles, ma räägin eesti keeles. Aga okei, mõtleme, mis ma nüüd järgmise mängin. Ma vist teen väikse pausi ikkagi. Ma teen mingi 15 minutise pausi ja siis tulen mänga ühte neist mängudest, mis mul on installitud selle arvuti peal. Uues asukohas, Nõmmel olen. Ja mul on siin metsikult mingid... see on ulmemäng. Läks korraks sulle seda näitama. See on päris lahe. See on veits siuke nagu ka ATH läks. Demo muidugi. Aga tasuta demo päris hea. Aga see on nagu metsiku stiiliga mäng. Mullet Magic. Oh yeah. Kas ma saan seda teisele ekraanile ka panna? Nii. Anglees. Seda kahekesi ei saa üks mängida, aga cool game. Lenient. Yes, please. Normal mode. Let's go. Far into the future, man and internet merge into new being. Humans need dopamine every 10 seconds or else they die. Philosophical take. World is like that. The world is now ruled by super rich AI robots called robo-billionaires. Those who dare to live every 10 seconds of life to kill those blah 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 blah.
Initializing our live stream show.
Live stream?
Looking for a protagonist. Tracking.
Nice musa ka. Peaks valjamaks panema.
He sounds like a strong silent type. Sir, I'm going to call him.
Vahi seda autot. Sa ütled auto, aga see on masin.
Moderator streaming app. You will enter
Siuke musa ka.
today's prize. These amazing sneakers.
Wow, ma saan jalanõud, kui ma lihtsalt lähen Killing Spree'le mingit robotite vastu. Davai. Printsessi peab päästma, see on see Super Mario troop.
Moderated rescue her on live stream wins the prize. We'll triangulate her location. Right now, he's right in front of you. Watch out!
Ma teen mingi ühe kiire mängu seda ja siis lähen pausile ja siis tulen mängin midagi muud. Mingi robot toeb printsessi, ma lähen sõidan sisse. Mullet Man. Mad Jack. Original video animation FPS, see on päris lahe. Et see on nagu praktiliselt video. Veits mängib küll nagu video. Tõsid. Oh no! Mingi miljardär robot! Mis selle vastu küll teha? Relvaga ulme, see kuradi Michelangelo ka, Leonardo. Siis ma lihtsalt jooksen ja löön mingisugused masinaid. Lihtsalt mega high paced nagu. Ja mingi environmental hazardid ja damage ja värki. See on mega nagu nii kiiresti käib, et kick! Davai. Use mouse 2 to finish enemies with items and fully heroes. Davai.
Hey, moderator, it's official. We are now on live stream. Millions are watching you save our princess.
Cool.
You're putting the audience's love into your bloodstream.
Cool.
Your blood feels the sweet, sweet flavor of those lights.
Cool.
You now have 10 seconds of life. For every kill, the audience will give you more time to live. But if you bore the audience not killing anything, they will let you die after 10 seconds. Ready? Go moderate these damn robots!
Who is better, robot, corporate overlords, or the audience? Both are evil. I'm super shit at this, but... Plays super sleek though. Ülikiire gameplay ja väga koridoriline, aga kuna on see aja kuradi limiit, siis on lõbus.
10 floors to reach our princess. But if you die, you come back to all these floors. You read the terms and services of our app, right?
See on convenient, kui sured ära, siis lähed lihtsalt 10 floori alla, et see ei ole päris surm, okei?
Good luck. You have 10 seconds. Destroy these damn robots.
Not a real death if I just respawn. Põmm! Ma ei saa aru, kust need itemid tulevad, ma ei näe mitte midagi, mis toimub, aga ma saan aru, et mingite itemitega ma saan neid mingi eraldi kille. Näete seda. Ma just jooksen kõigest mööda, saan sekundid juurde sellest, et ma lihtsalt rammin mingit tüüpe mingitesse ventikatesse. Ja siis BAM! Mul ei olnud isegi vaja seda tüüpi maha võtta. Metsik. Submachine gun.
Peace Corp wishes you a good day.
Time to kill robots and drink soda.
Bang! Some reference to Duke Nukem. Very cool. Bang. 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 Yo! Sekundid tulevad, sekundid lähevad. Lahe!
Oh, don't wait until you're a cold corpse. Spend hot money now.
Weapon buyer, newly acquired weapon does double damage. Okay. Extra seconds, let's go.
I need to stop drinking so much soda.
Bang! Midagi ei tule välja. Ma nüüd suvaliselt vajutan nuppe ja võidan. Hallo! Napikas. Harder. Magazine size extra seconds in the crotch. Davai. Crotchi tulistama.
Learn how the system works.
Nice. Do these flying drones have a crotch? Probably not. Crotch time. Exit. 30-20 sekundised levelid. Slower enemy bullets. Enemy bullets on pohhu. Silent protag. Ma ei tea, mis see annab, kui silent protag on, aga ma arvan, et mitte midagi ausalt öeldes. No! No! Davai, retry. Metsikult kiire peab siin olema. Mul on mingi suht easy mode ka, aga parem klõps siire, parem klõps on OP selles mängus. Overpowered! Shit! Shit! Esimene floor jälle tehtud! Ma pean ühe korra veel läbi mängima, siis ma lähen pausile. Speed!
Thank you!
All shell, no ghost.
Läheb, op! Lihtsalt nõtkan teda jalaga. Even Robert Billionaires have fans. Jaa, Elon Musk. Nii, shooting rams crutch, jaa.
Billionaires do not care.
True! Probably. Depends on the billionaire, but that's boring. No! Miks see vahepeal lihtsalt nii pausile jääb? Wow! Mis kiirus see siin tuli praegu? See on mingisugune... Mingi paag on, kus läheb mingi mega kiireks. What? Ma valisin selle kogemata. Build a door. What? Wow, speed time! Mis tuleb mingi speed bonus sellest, et kui kiiresti ma neid maha võtan? Veel üks laskumine või? Davai. Natuke meenutab little, it's like reminds me of the arcade games that you just like statically move around. Like it's a bit more control here, but like basically you don't need to move around in those and you just shoot enemies. Lollipop. Niikuinii ainult jalaga mügan neid vastaseid. Environmental hazard, läheb, let's go. Op. Let's go. Ventikas. Oh no, punch! Ei! Okei, paus. Ja siis ma tulen mängin pikemaid mänge. This is a very freaking cool game. Very philosophical. In a funny way. Cheers, see you!